My favorite example of how education is used to confuse us and to control us. There are three favorite examples of mine. I call them the three holy cows of our education system. And those holy cows are the fact that humans evolved out of apes. These are the things that they teach us at school. That we evolved out of apes, obviously. Nothing can travel faster than light, because that breaks the entire Newtonian physics mechanism that we've been taught at school, and that energy cannot be created. It can only be converted from one form to another. Now, woven into these statements are both lies and truth. So keep in mind again, they skate very, very close to the truth, but they fudge the details in everything about human evolution, about nothing can travel faster than light, and about energy cannot be created, it can only be converted. All three of those statements are both false and true. And this is what creates so much confusion. So let's just go through these. First of all, the theory of evolution was introduced into our education system in the 1800s. We're all aware of this. 1800s, and then especially in the early 1900s, when the theory of evolution started in the 1800s with Darwin, but was really introduced in our education system in the 1900s. And then it was a theory, and then suddenly very fiercely enforced. And it's evolution that gets taught at school, not creation. And it's, if you mention creation or intelligent design in any educational position as an educator, a teacher or a lecturer at university, you get fired. Again, watch that documentary. Expelled, no intelligence allowed, or no intelligence wanted. It features Ben Stein. So the theory of evolution suddenly becomes the fact of evolution. And if you don't teach it, you get fired. And if you don't believe it, then you're an atheist, or not an atheist. If you don't believe it, then you just anti-science. You anti-science and you don't believe science. And you should follow the science. And we need to talk about the word science as well. It's really important. So any geneticist that is worth his weight or her weight will tell you that our DNA is a patchwork of DNA. It is a cloned DNA. Our DNA is not an naturally evolved DNA. There are parts of our DNA that is cut out and placed and moved. And any geneticist that is an independent geneticist that does not work for big pharma or the big genetics labs, that is under secrecy and under non-disclosure, they cannot tell you any of this. But independent geneticists that somehow end up with this, and I've been fortunate enough to have met several of them, about 3 or 4 of these, some of the smartest geneticists in the world. One of them is here in South Africa, one of the most sought after geneticists and stem cell developers in the world, in Johannesburg. They tell you unequivocally that our DNA is a patchwork of DNA. It is a spliced DNA. It's not an evolved DNA. Somebody cloned us, and we know that story from ancient times and ancient texts and ancient scriptures. So if people still tell you that we've evolved, they don't have enough information. So just stop them. Do not be apologetic about this. You can stop them and say, look, you can't have this discussion with me because you don't have enough background knowledge and information. And whatever I'm going to share with you, you will not understand and you will dismiss as hocus pocus. So you can't have these discussions with people that just blatantly spew out evolution because they've been taught this all their life. In all the textbooks, in all of our schooling, that's what we get taught. There's adaptation, but evolution and adaptation are two very different things. I do not ever confuse those two things, adaptation and evolution. So the second holy cow that I love is the fact that that nothing moves faster than the speed of light. While in 2005 already at the Middle Tennessee State University, a bunch of undergraduates and some high school friends of theirs propelled sound beyond the speed of light, not just once or twice faster, many times faster than the speed of light. This was known as, this was called superluminal propagation. Superluminal, faster than speed of light. Superluminal propagation was realized. It was this result was published in 2007, in the American Institute of Physics, and then they buried that very, very quickly. They really didn't want the schools and the universities to pick up on this and to start teaching this, because this is, keep in mind that the speed of light is the holy cow in physics and science, that, you know, you can't go faster than the speed of light, because then whole Einstein's theory of relativity and all that stuff falls apart. So, and we're going to come back to that again. Just if I make statements that are a little out of context, we're going to circle back to that. Circle back to that. So let's carry on. So the evolution that we evolved out of apes, absolute nonsense. The fact that nothing moves faster than the speed of light, absolute nonsense. And it's only when we realize that sound is the primordial source of everything. Sound, resonance, and frequency. Resonance, vibration, and frequency that we experience as sound in this reality of ours, on this world, in this world, on this earth, in the air that we breathe. We call it sound, but what it is resonance, vibration, and frequency. So sound is the source of all things, that manifests all things in our reality, the seen and the unseen. Only when we come to terms with that will all this start to make sense. And then the third one is that we cannot create or destroy energy. We can just convert it from one to another. And that brings us to the fact, well, where does energy come from? Where does the universe come from? Where does everything come from? Well, we get told it comes from the Big Bang. So how can you say we can't create or destroy energy when all the energy in the known universe comes from the Big Bang? All this energy there was nothing, and then suddenly everything was created and everything just was hurled into existence through the Big Bang. So can you see the truth and the deception in that statement? Yes, it is true that you cannot destroy and create energy, but you first need to define what that is. You can't then say everything comes from the Big Bang and we don't understand what the Big Bang is. So they fudge the whole thing of the Big Bang by saying it comes from the singularity, that infinitely dense, tiny little point, a subatomic particle point from which everything exploded in a moment of creativity and created the universe, and all the mass and all the matter and all the energy comes from that point of singularity. So clearly we've created energy and we've created something. So there is a disturbance of truth here that we need to recognize and realize how, once again, this is used to confuse us and to distort and fudge the detail. And that's really what brings us to starting at the beginning. So now finally, we're going to come to starting at the very beginning. And then the question is, well, the beginning of what? What are we going to start off? The beginning. Is it the origins of humankind? The beginning of life? Creation of our solar system? The creation of the universe? Let's go to the beginning of everything, because that's where the journey becomes really, really interesting. And we've just had a little teaser with the Big Bang and the singularity. So let's start there. Let's start with the Big Bang, because right now, the Big Bang is the theory they teach at school at how the universe came to be. And all NASA scientists, all science institutions and astrophysics institutions talk about the Big Bang as a given fact, as the scientific fact that brought forth the universe and everything in it. It's not questioned. No one's questioning this. And they talk about 14 billion years ago, that there was nothing and nowhere. And this is the definition of the Big Bang, by the way, from space.com. So nearly 14 billion years ago, there was nothing and nowhere. Then, due to a random fluctuation in a completely empty void, a universe exploded into existence. Something the size of a subatomic particle inflated to unimaginably huge size in a fraction of a second, driven apart by negative pressure vacuum energy. Scientists call this theory for the origins of life and origins of the universe the Big Bang. Now, if ever there was something that sounds like science fiction. This sounds something like the greatest science fiction movie ever written. And this remains the mainstream science world's description of the creation of our universe. Just stop and think about this for a second, people. So next time somebody tells you, follow the science, you tell them to shut the hell up. They have no idea what they're talking about, no idea what science is. They don't even know where the word science comes from, what it means, and what a true scientist really is, and who should be called a scientist and who should never be called a scientist, because this kind of statement sounds and reads like the greatest science fiction story ever written. And this is what we teach our kids, and this is what all our astrophysicists and scientists hold on to. And yet, in this fictional story lies an incredible amount of truth. Once again, they fudge the detail. They tell you what happened, but they fudge the detail because they don't want you to know the truth. And the moment you're confused about it, it often takes a lot more time to get unconfused than if you knew less or more. So it's better to confuse people than rather not tell them something or tell them everything. So confusion is good for those who want to keep us uninformed. So the Big Bang, the question is, well, what happened next? What happened when the Big Bang happened? How did everything come into existence? Well, the spectacular thing, and this is where the science fiction fairy tale of mainstream astrophysics, astrophysicists and cosmologists continues, this fantastic science fiction story. It is an accident. It is not by design or consciousness. It is purely an accident. So the void was filled with an infinite number of subatomic particles, infinitely small subatomic particles that vibrated and bumped into each other randomly. These random collisions of these infinite number of subatomic particles created everything in the known universe, the seen and the unseen universe. They created the galaxies, the planets, the water, the plants, the animals, the insects, etc., 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 including you and I, and the ability to communicate and reason. So everything in our reality is a consequence of an accidental bumping of random particles bumping into each other, creating everything in the known universe. Now, if you did not know this, hold on to this, because this is critical. This is what they tell us is responsible for everything in the known universe. And they stick to this. They stick to this BS. Clearly, anyone that has studied any little bit of science, biology, especially biology, any kind of biologist that studies the complexity of cells, plant cells, human cells, single-celled organisms are so complex that any biologist should look at this, read this, and go, you got to be on drugs, dude. Anyone that can make this kind of statement is clearly deluded, has got no idea what's going on, and is promoting science fiction as science. So huge, huge problem that we faced with here. The entire universe was created by random particles bumping into each other by accident. So I developed a lovely little story that I do, a little trick, and I start by going like this. And then eventually people say, what are you doing? I say, I'm making a rabbit. What? Yeah, I'm making a rabbit. You know, did you know that the entire universe and everything in creation started with random particles bumping into each other? Subatomic random particles, and eventually created everything: planets, galaxies, animals, insects, and everything else, including rabbits. So by me bumping these particles, not randomly, but consciously, I'm not just bumping particles against each other, I'm bumping conscious cells, subatomic particles, atoms, molecules, molecular structure, cellular structure, and cells that already are made up. So I've jump-started and leapfrogged the creation process by billions of years, and I'm way ahead of the process. So if I just carry on this bumping of particles against each other for another 100 trillion times, a rabbit will appear. A rabbit will magically appear out of this bump. You realize how insane that is. obviously, if you believe that, then this will create a rhino, this will create an elephant, this will create an octopus, and you can come up with an infinite number of bumping of particles against each other and what kind of creature or galaxy you want to create for yourself by bumping particles into each other. So let's carry on, because that is, I find that it's almost stand-up comedy, not almost, this is stand-up comedy material. Mainstream physics and the creation of the universe, of what the mainstream shoves down our throats. So what are the alternatives to the Big Bang? And this really gets quite interesting, because there are a number of alternatives. The Big Bang is not the only theory out there, but it's the one that's been adopted. So the alternatives to the Big Bang are the steady state theory, the bouncing cosmology, the internal inflation, the cyclic or cyclic model, the black hole theory, the simulation theory, and then the very popular one, that very crazy one, the string theory. Now, many people have heard about the string theory, and because the string theory is just such hocus pocus garbage nonsense, it is absolutely unbelievable, the insanity that the guys that came up with a string theory. It's like they're running in exactly the opposite direction where they should be going with conscious thought. So many people, you know, I remember the time where you'd go to parties and so on, and somebody said, hey, have you heard about the string theory? What do you think about the string theory? And people say it because they, first of all, they think they're going to come across as smart and informed and educated. They know about the string theory. They've got no idea what it is. And they're hoping that you're going to say something intelligent about the string theory that they've not heard yet, that'll help them to understand what the hell it is and what the hell it really means. Because it's such a convoluted bunch of garbage that only the guys that came up with it can actually try and explain it. And I've studied it, I've looked at it in great detail, and my God, it is spectacular. Again, there are some elements of it that hold the truth, that suddenly out of the blue say, this is what happens. Vibration and resonance. Yes, vibration and resonance. But then those are the fundamentals of creation. But then after that, the details of get fudged and everything just gets lost in complete nonsensical garbage. So the string theory, we're going to deal with first. First of all, the string theory is not a theory of creation. Okay, so if somebody talks to you about the string theory, it's not a theory of creation. It is theory of particle physics and subatomic particles. So the string theory particles are replaced by one-dimensional objects called strings. And the string theory describes how these tiny little strings propagate through space and interact with each other. From a distance, these strings look just like an ordinary particle, but when you get close, you realize it's not a particle, it's a string. You see what they do there? They actually bring together the particle wave theory. So it's an attempt to bring together the double slit experiment where suddenly particles become waves, and it just completely destroys the nature of reality or understanding of what's really going on here. So the string theory is an attempt to bring together the particle and the wave into one theory, and it fails dramatically. So it's and it looks like a string, and it doesn't look like a string. It looks like an ordinary particle from a distance with its mass and charge and other properties determined by the vibrational state of the string. One of the many vibrational states of the string corresponds to the graviton. And the moment you read that, you know these guys are fishing. Okay, the moment they start talking about gravitons means they either know what's going on and they are deluding us by talking about gravitons, because we'll talk about gravity and what gravity really is, and quantum mechanical particle that carries gravitational forces. Now they're telling us that particles carry gravitational forces. And once again, there's truth and there's deception in that statement. This is truly spectacular, because once we know what particles are, once we know that particles are tiny toroidal fields, we understand why they have gravity and why the gravity is created. But if you think a particle is a little piece of dust, or think of it as a little grain of sand, if you think of it like that, then you can never explain why a particle will carry gravitational forces, because that is nonsensical. So this is, again, all these things are so beautifully messed up and muddied. The water is so muddied by these astrophysicists and the scientists that work on it, that to any normal human being that is new to this, it gets so crazy and complicated, they can never make heads or tails out of it. So I'm doing my best to discern and separate the bullshit from the truth, and the BS from the real science and the real research, from the pseudoscience and the science fiction. And it's those that claim to be the true scientists are the science fiction writers and the BS agents. And we need to start looking in the opposite direction always. So the string theory is a theory of quantum gravity and not the origins of the universe. Very important thing. So next time somebody says, what do you think of the string theory? You say, what about it? Think about what about the string theory. You know, hopefully you'll have a little bit more confidence to discuss it with them. Steady state theory states that emerging as one of the first opponents to the Big Bang theory, steady state postulates a continuous creation of matter all over the universe to explain its discernible expansion. This sort of universe would be infinite without a beginning or an end. Very interesting. Once again, there's truth and there's deception in there. So steady state theory is really interesting. Yes, there's constant creation, there's constant growth. We know from observing if we can trust what they show us. But from what we've detected, there's constant creation. We create all the time. Every thought you have, you've created, is a creation. Every thought you have, every word you speak is a creation. You've created something. So there's constant creation going on. Plants that grow, seeds that grow, even the compost that's created from the falling plants and stuff from in the forest. It's not only destruction, but it's recreation. So there's a cycle of life, but there's emergence of more life because one plant creates more plants. So one seed creates many more seeds. So you can see this constant creation, constant growth and expansion of creation. So the steady state theory is really interesting, but where it comes from and how it originates remains the obstacle here, is the thing that they never deal with. Just like the Big Bang, that doesn't deal with what the singularity is and where the singularity is located and how it is possible for the singularity to have brought forth everything in the known universe, including you and me. We're going to deal with that, with what the singularity is. Bouncing cosmology, also better known as the Big Bounce theory, agrees with the accelerated expansion of the universe proposed by the Big Bang theory. So accelerated expansion. However, the Big Bounce states that the universe has been subjected to a state of expansion and compression, one after another, recurrently, bouncing each time to contrast or to contract to a certain volume. Some suggest that the universe only bounces once. In this model, the cosmos has been shrinking before the bounce since the innumerable past, and it will expand for the rest of its time. So again, it tells us that it expands and then it shrinks and then it expands. So once again, there's a lot of truth and a lot of deep information in this bouncing cosmology theory that is connected to the Big Bang and to what we know the nature of reality to be. And again, there's very important information in here, but they never explain what it is that they're referring to. The eternal inflation theory presupposes that inflation never stops after the Big Bang, but it continued to happen for an infinite time span. Out there somewhere, even today, new universes are being created in an immense complex called the multiverse. What more, those numerous universes could have quite different physical laws from the ones we know. And that's, again, many of us are very comfortable with the fact that we're not just one verse, one universe, one verse, one united verse of a song, but there are many verses of many songs, multiverses. Important, that word song, sound, resonance, frequency, music. The creation of songs is something. Every time you create a song, you write a song, you've created something. So you've created universes and multiverses. So it's all connected, all this stuff. So this is an interesting, very interesting theory, the multiverse theory. The cyclic model or the oscillating model, also known as the oscillating model of the universe, implicated an endless streak of Big Bangs, later on accompanied by the Big Crunch. So it's expansion, contraction. And that's really interesting. The Steiner-Turok cyclic model includes two parallel orbifold planes, also known as membranes, that collide at intervals in a higher dimensional space. In this theory, discernible four-dimensional universe rests on one of these branes. Again, can you see what's going on here? I don't know if you're following my drift, if you're following that direction that this is going in. the big expansion and the crunch. Anyway, we're going to cover this. So it breathes out and it breathes in. And at the center of this, there are two discernible orbifold planes that move against each other, called membranes. I think what they're doing here is describing a toroidal field. The black hole theory. The black hole theory, our universe comes from a black hole of another universe, and therefore we are living outside its event horizon. The event horizon is the point of a black hole at which if you cross the event horizon, then there's no amount of energy that you can escape. That black hole will suck you in. Okay, so keep in mind, black holes and toruses are the same thing. So the black holes have been created as scare tactics for people that want to learn about the cosmos and the universe and so on. Black holes are these big scary things that have been put out there. Oh, black holes just black holes will chew you up and will kill everything. That's part of the deception. That's not really what's going on. But the black hole theory describes a toroidal field, and it tells us that we come out of a toroidal field, out of another black hole, out of another universe, and we are outside of the event horizon. So we can't get sucked back into that black hole. And that's why it says that living outside its event horizon. So you can't get sucked back into that black hole. So in an alternative version of the theory, the observable universe is the inside of a black hole, subsiding as one of the potentially many within a larger parent universe or multiverse. So in this respect, we can claim that a new universe lies behind every black hole. Given that we cannot pass the event horizon of a black hole, we cannot go through there, otherwise you're going to get sucked in there. There is no way to clarify or prove or disprove this theory. Well, we can prove or disprove that theory by studying toroidal fields, which are black holes. So the black hole theory is probably the closest to the truth of what's really going on there, but they made it very, very scary. So people don't want to go there. No, well, we can't have a black hole. No, they'll just destroy everything. It'll create everything, but it'll destroy everything. Well, in a sense, that actually what's truly going on there. And it gets very exciting. And then the final theory that's out there is a simulation theory. And this is just really a crazy idea, is that the entire universe is just a flat hologram projected onto a spherical surface, or it could even be an entirely digital simulation running on an enormous computer. All right, so you got to understand, this is now obviously the new age computer geeks that have come up with this. While much of this may be true in what we observe, as what has been projected to us may actually be part of this definition. But the entire creation of the entire universe to be described to be a spherical, to be a projection onto a spherical surface, still leaves the question, well, who created the computer? Where does the computer come from? Where does the projection come from? What kind of projector is being used? What technology is being used? Who created that technology? So this simulation theory is just this chicken and egg situation. It really is just like, it's a chicken and egg situation, and it's just a nice idea to think about. But we'll talk about that in more detail because it is quite possible that we, as human beings, in this reality, in this world of ours, could actually be this. But in this case, it talks about the entire universe as a consciousness thing that comes out of consciousness. So there's two very different things. The fact that our reality could be a simulation, that our world could be a simulated virtual reality game, computer game, and we are just genetic organisms and so forth, controlled by some computer that plugs into our DNA. Well, guess what? It's busy happening today with the way they're trying to manipulate our DNA and control our minds with implants and so forth. All of this might be happening much faster than we can probably realize. So can you recognize the hidden message in all those theories, the different alternative theories to the Big Bang? And there's really the toroidal fields, the black holes, the toroidal fields, the vibrating plates, the membranes, and so forth. Each one of those describes the pulsating, the breathing of a toroidal field, the vibration, the resonance of toroidal fields, the yin and the yang. This is spectacular. Each one of those has elements of the toroidal fields hidden in them, but they just don't go there. And this is the big breakthrough that we need to embrace. And the big realization of how far we've come in understanding the nature of reality and everything around us and inside of us, and how simple things really are. So it's important to understand that the toroidal field pulsates. It pulsates, it breathes. It also has a wobble. There's a toroidal wobble. Like they say, you know, the precessional wobble of the Earth, that's actually called a toroidal wobble. So toruses breathe, they expand and they contract, just like our universe. Now, this is one of the spectacular photographs and images from the background radiation, cosmic radiation images that was taken over a 6-year period. I think it was a 6-year period. The cosmic background radiation experiment that was done, that was just spectacular. And what you can see here is the beautiful toroidal shape, even in the image of the universe from this image that was created. You can see the galactic plane in there. You can see the accretion disk at the center of the torus. And here's a beautiful example. This is known as the Kolmogorov map. Kolmogorov map of cosmic microwave background radiation. And here you can actually beautifully see the movement, the energy movement, both in and out and around the torus, and culminating in the creation of that equatorial disk, or the universal disk, the galactic disk, the solar disk that is at the center of a torus. It's quite spectacular when you look at this. And they don't show this to us. They don't explain this. They don't teach this. Nobody has taught this at school in the way that it should be taught. And this is a dead giveaway, how far we've come and how much we know about the universe and what it really is. So the expansion and contraction is visible even in our immediate surrounding. Even the Andromeda galaxy is not moving away from us. It's coming towards us. Andromeda and another 100 galaxies that they recognize are actually moving towards the Milky Way. So it shows that we in some sort of a giant toroidal field that has things moving towards us and things moving away from us, because that's how toroidal fields work. And you can see it in these simulations, but we'll see it in other depictions of toroidal fields a little bit later. So as I mentioned, just the expansion and contraction and the breathing can be seen in our immediate cosmos around us, in the galaxies around us, if in fact, again, we can actually believe what it is that they're telling us. The big question is, where did the Big Bang come from? The Big Bang comes from the singularity. This is what they tell us. So here's a lovely graphic depiction. Now, I put this here because 99% of the image, 99.9% of the images that you see from NASA or the European Space Agency or any of these agencies are artistic impressions of their graphic designers. Just keep this in mind. Most of the images are not actual images taken of objects in space. They're artistic graphic designers' impressions of what was captured on a computer. So here's a graphic artist impression of the singularity, that little dot at the bottom out of which the universe is created. And that's really interesting. Can you see how this graphic artist has created the toroidal vortex going out, showing us that it is at the center of a torus. It's in the middle of a torus. And from there, it goes out and it creates the toroidal field around it. So even in this image, the truth is encoded. So I wonder if the deception agents instruct the digital artists how to draw and what to draw. Because why would a graphic designer do this, draw this and show a torus? They must have been told what to do and what to draw and what to create. So it shows you how the system is controlled and how they control even the artwork that goes out there, and they encode the truth and the details in the artwork. That out of that 0 point, that bright dot at the bottom of that image creates the toroidal vortex and creates the toroidal field around it that creates the beautiful, the entire universe. And this is why the singularity is the 0 point of the torus universe. There you can see in the middle, there's the singularity, there's the dot. That's where all the energy in the universe is created from, comes from. That's from that point, the singularity or the 0 point, that all matter manifests. And this is a beautiful image of a full balanced magnetic spectrum or balanced magnetic field. You can see the 0 point in the middle. You can see the balanced toroidal field on top and another toroidal field at the bottom. The one rotates towards this way, the other one rotates in the opposite direction. And where they meet, they create the equatorial disk on the accretion disk. And this is what we see in all creation. And so there are two toroidal fields that face each other. They actually repel each other in the flow of the energy, but where the energy meets, it's like they create a corkscrew effect. Instead of repelling each other, they actually attract each other to create that accretion disk of matter and energy. So what is behind the Big Bang? That's the next big question. And I think we're coming to the end of this session. So what is behind the Big Bang? And I think serendipitously, we end up on one of my favorite statements by one of my favorite scientists and researchers and inventors and creators and bright minds as Max Planck. Max Planck obviously is the father of the quantum mechanics, the father of the quantum leap, the guy that won the Nobel Prize for discovering how electrons move between dimensions, how they move from one energy state to another state. Keep in mind that Max Planck didn't say they move, they travel like a little car or a bus. They go, okay, I'm going to go drive up to that next. No, the electron exists in this energy state, and then it suddenly disappears and it reappears in a higher energetic state in another orbit level, like onion rings around the center core, right? So this is what Max Planck is known for, the quantum leap, the electrons moving, and obviously the father of quantum mechanics in many ways. And this is what Max Planck had to say. This is not one of the things that was promoted about Max Planck. Keep in mind that they promoted these scientific theories and they used what they needed to promote their agenda in the 20s and the 30s, like they did with all the other brilliant minds of those times, from Niels Bohr and Heisenberg and Einstein and everybody else. They used their minds to promote their agenda. But Max Planck made it very, very clear. And he says, I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness. We cannot get behind consciousness. Everything that we talk about, everything that we regard as existing postulates consciousness. So can you see what Max Planck is telling us here? That behind the Big Bang, behind all the matter in the universe, including you and I and our capacity to talk and to reason and to think, behind all of these things and behind the singularity is consciousness, is some being, some things, conscious intent to create something. Consciousness, that is behind everything in our creation and our reality. And we can very clearly see that in the construction of our universe, in the structure of matter, in how matter manifests, in how galaxies are manifested, how solar systems are manifested, how atoms are manifested, and we're going to go into that in the next session, how atoms, electrons, and all subatomic particles are not what we've been told. Are all those particles also these beautiful tiny toroidal fields that manifest energy, and there is an infinite number of these subatomic particles. They're not just leptons and bosons and muons and gluons and all the other nonsensical particles that they keep coming up with, because they have to constantly fill this ever-growing void of infinity, and they have to keep making up new particles to solve new problems, instead of just sharing the truth with everybody so that we really come to embrace the true nature of our reality. So thank you. I hope that was informative enough to a whole different take on the Big Bang and the other theories and ideas and so forth. Question here, why the lies? Okay, now, again, this is a question, you know, when people ask that, I'm not quite sure how to answer that. The obvious answer is, you know, I have my own ideas and I have my own theories why the lies, but the only people that can really answer why the lies is those that are perpetrating the lies, those that are spreading the lies. So we can never really get to the bottom of why the lies unless we get them into an interrogation room and interrogate them about why they're lying to us. So we have to reach certain conclusions and assume why they're lying. And the lies, from my perspective, are to prevent us from realizing who we truly are as conscious human beings, divine beings of infinite soul, that have the capacity to do and create anything and everything, and that our DNA and our capacity for creation is being suppressed, dulled, destroyed. Our DNA is constantly being destroyed and manipulated, so that we don't ever reach the notion or the awakening moment of who we truly are. That is my personal belief, my understanding. In fact, I just interviewed my friend, Professor Ilya Lakitsevich 2 days ago. And he's, he's one of the most brilliant scientists in the world, inventor, scientist. He was a main researcher at the Max Planck Institute. He's the guy that developed those radiation buster stickers that you can order on my Facebook page and my Telegram channel and on my website as well. If you do want to order those radiation buster stickers, I suggest you get it from my website because you get a discount rather than going directly to the guys in London. And these are these tiny little radiation stickers. I got one right here. It's really faded. It lost its glueability. But let me move this. You can see this. This is a tiny little radiation sticker. Tiny little sticker. You can see it's really worn off. It's got Nikola Tesla's face on it. And in this little tiny sticker is encoded the technology to neutralize bad radiation, 5G, 4G, all the stuff that the electrosmog, all the electromagnetic frequencies that are bad for you. It is truly spectacular. When you see the results, the blood sample results from the lab in London that Tim has done now. Tim runs the Omnia company, and he's taken these from Professor Lakitsevich, and he's developed it into what they call the Omnia radiation buster stickers. And they've done these tests with people's blood taken before the cell phone, before they use a cell phone, and then immediately after they use a cell phone, and then while they're using a cell phone, they put a radiation sticker on the cell phone and they draw the blood again. And then they show you first your blood is normal. And then the moment you have a cell phone near you, it coagulates your blood. And then the moment you put the sticker on it, the coagulation stops and the blood cells become free and beautiful and healthy again. It's just truly incredible, the technology in this tiny little sticker. So anyway, it's Professor Ilya Lakitsevich. That's a good friend of mine, and he developed this technology. And he tells you very clearly that he's reached the same conclusion as Max Planck, that everything comes from consciousness, and that this, call it God, call it the creator, call it the grand master plan, whatever you want to call it. I like to call it God, the creator, and we are one with that creator. We are one with that creation source, and we are of that creation source, and all that information is encoded in our DNA. We are a fractal of that creation, and a fractal means that all the knowledge encoded in the source body is also carried in the tiny portion of the full parent source. So a fractal has the same information as the source of that fractal. So that's incredible. How many scientists, many mainstream scientists, reach a conclusion that goes beyond the mainstream realms of mainstream science and physics and gets into the metaphysical and the spiritual area. And the moment they go there, they're normally ostracized and kicked out of the mainstream scientific fraternity because they start to talk about things that they shouldn't be talking about. So anyway, So I don't know why I spoke about that. That was about really why the lies. So the lies are to prevent us from realizing who we are and our capacity. And if we can really realize that we can create anything with our thoughts. I mean, it sounds crazy to most people that we can create anything with our thoughts, that we can communicate telepathically and et cetera, et cetera. The moment we have telepathic communication, we can never have governments or agencies that lie to us, because we will know. They will know that we know, and they cannot lie. So part of the deceptions and the lies, and to stop us from being omnipotent with our knowledge and information and become fully conscious, evolved beings, is that then they can no longer control humanity and manipulate humanity to be their slaves. Why that, I don't know. Is it about the money? It can't be about the money. Money is just a tool for the control. Is it because they're using humans as food? I don't know. It could be. Is it because they love to sacrifice babies and eat babies and rape children and participate in pedophilia? It could be that, because it gives them some sort of a weird pleasure. All of those things are quite possible, because we know that much of this is going on behind the scenes. It's horrific. It's beyond any conscious being's imagination that anybody could do such things, and yet it is going on. So the question why is a very important question. I can't answer that. Only those that are perpetrating the lies can answer that. And hopefully one day we'll get them in an interrogation room and ask them some questions with some truth serum.